What's up, fuckers? It's tea time. They say baseball is America's pastime, but I think it's safe to say that racism is how we really kill our free time. And anyone that isn't white. The USDA says corn is the number one crop grown in America. But I'll tell you what's becoming number two. Homegrown terrorists. They were certainly in full bloom on January 6th. The nation's capital was surrounded by an army of them, just blossoming like delicate little flowers. Pansies, to be more specific. Turns out Trump is quite the horticulturist when it comes to domestic terrorists. His words are the perfect fertilizer for these homegrown monsters. Well, shit. That man's got an orange face, a green thumb, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had a silver back. I mean, he stands just like a gorilla, and he loves to sling shit all over the place. His just happens to come out of his mouth. Many studies show that talking to your plants really can help them grow faster and stronger. Now, the GQP is showing us how talking to domestic terrorists about fake election fraud and calling COVID-19 the Kung Flu does the same thing for them. They are growing like weeds, y'all. We all know Tangerine Palpatine loved using expressions like the Chinese virus or the Wuhan flu. Do you think it's any coincidence there have been reports of almost 3,800 incidents of Asian American hate crimes between March 19th, 2020 and February 21st, 2021? Well, leaping lizard people. I wonder what could have influenced that. And what makes it even worse is the real number is no doubt higher because many incidents aren't even reported. We all know what happened in Atlanta this week. But did you know that the shooting started just hours after the Pumpkin Bumpkin went on Fox News talking about the China virus? And then Patrick Crusius went to it. Oh, wait. That's the young white man who was mass shooting Mexicans in 2019. Sorry. On March 16th, Kyle Rittenhouse went to it. No, he's the young white male who was shooting Black Lives Matter protesters in 2020. You know, statistics show that since 1982, the majority of mass shootings were committed by white men, about 55%. The deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, which left 61 people dead, happened in Las Vegas in 2017 by you guessed it, a white man. So hopefully you'll see how I got confused. Forgive me. Aaron Long. There we go. On March 16th, Aaron Long went to 3 different Atlanta area spas to shoot and kill 8 people. 6 of those people were Asian women. And one woman was 74 years old, for God's sakes. But still, it comes as no surprise that he was arrested without incident, just like the white Charleston church shooter, Dylan Roof. Aaron didn't get a hamburger like Dylan did, though. Guess Aaron was just one victim short of getting the free meal that comes with each mass shooting of 9 people or more. But don't worry. Aaron's mass shooting had nothing to do with race. Just like Dylan's cold-blooded murder of 9 black men and women had nothing to do with race either, right? Aaron was just on Ambien. Wait. Ambien's what makes you send racist tweets. His blood sugar was low. No, that's not right either. I forgot low blood sugar is what made an announcer call young black girls the N-word at a high school basketball game. He was having a bad day. There we go. Seems there's just about as many lame excuses for being racist as there are mass shootings by white men. Aaron was having a bad day, so he killed 8 people. At least that's what that Cherokee County cop Jay Baker said during a joint news conference with the Atlanta Police Department. Oop. And that's the same Jay Baker who sells t-shirts online that say COVID-19 imported virus from China. You know, we import a lot of things from China, but not our terrorists. Their pasty ass cheeks are all stamped Made in America. But back to Aaron. Aaron must have had a rough day on the set of Duck Dynasty before he drove all over the place targeting places where Asian women work. But it's no secret the color of your skin determines how the media portrays your crimes. And white supremacists are thick as thieves, and that's a lot thicker than Aaron's patchy pubic beard, I'll tell you that. Now, Aaron claims he killed these people because he has a sex addiction. I would have never thought that a mass shooting would be the answer to sex addiction. Maybe just give yourself a low 5. Play a solo on the private organ. It's called masturbation, Aaron. Although, castration sounds like a fine choice for you. But let me tell you something. I don't give a fuck about his bad day. What happened, Aaron? Was your white privilege not enough for you that day? Let's focus on the families whose bad days are just beginning. I'll tell you what I do give a fuck about. I give a fuck about the people who lost their lives that day. I give a fuck about the families who will be missing someone at the dinner table for the rest of their lives. I give a fuck about all the Asian American and Pacific Islanders who fear for their lives because apparently some white Americans resent them for simply existing. I give a fuck about LGBT Americans and people of color. I give a fuck about women, and you should too. And as much as I'd love to, we can't blame it all on Donald Trump. He is just a symptom. Racism and otherism are familiar old songs we've been playing on repeat in this country for centuries. In 1854, a Supreme Court case, People versus Hall, ruled that Chinese people, just like African Americans and Native Americans, were not allowed to testify in court. In 1875, Chinese Americans in San Francisco were blamed and attacked for a smallpox outbreak. In 1899, in Honolulu, during a plague outbreak, officials quarantined and eventually burned down Chinatown and threw the residents in refugee camps. In 1882, the Federal Chinese Exclusion Act was signed into law by President Chester A. Arthur. It prohibited all immigration of Chinese laborers in order to maintain white racial purity. In the beginning of the 1900s, the bubonic plague hit San Francisco. So, of course, 30,000 Chinese residents were forcibly quarantined behind barbed wire without evidence that they had anything to do with it. I say it in almost every tea time. America was founded on white supremacy. Racists love to say Democrats and people of color try to blame everything on race when racism isn't always what's going on. And you know what? They're right. It's not always about race. Sometimes it's about misogyny. More often than not, it's about both. And that's the case with what happened in Atlanta on March 16th. Asian American women have been hypersexualized in American society. Remember the Vietnam War and the saying, "Me love you long time"? It was a way to dehumanize and put down any Asian-looking woman to talk about them like prostitutes. It's casual racism. Harmful stereotypes about Asian women's passivity and wild sex appetites don't do anybody any favors, unless you're a white guy with a tiny penis problem. Oh, and speaking of Aaron Long, he said he killed those people at the 3 spas in order to wipe out the things that had led him unto temptation. White supremacy is an American temptation, and we've been giving into it since day one. And when a seed of white supremacy is planted, before long, racism, domestic terrorism, and inequality of all kinds starts growing like kudzu. We need to rip that crap out by the roots and learn how to build a beautiful and colorful garden together. I want everybody to have a great fucking day unless you make excuses for white murderers.